So recently I was actually tagged by two different YouTubers who both have great channels, The Upside Dan and Burja Roca. Both awesome channels, two of my favorite YouTubers, and yeah, they become good buds of mine already on YouTube. And yeah, so definitely check out their channels. They both tagged me to do basically my favorite movie from each, like 10 different genres. That's a tag going around YouTube. And yeah, I'm a little late to the party, but I finally got around to doing it. So, and at the end, I'm gonna say people that I would love to see do it as well. We're gonna start off. I'm gonna just talk about them basically in order of release because I saw there wasn't really an order people were going through the genres by. So, with that said, we're starting off with romance, and this might come to a bit of surprise for some people, but my pick for romance is Gone with the Wind from 1939. So for the most part, I'm not a huge classic film buff or anything. I've seen a bunch of the ones that are like considered the best films ever and stuff, but most of them haven't resonated with me for the most part. But this is sort of the one exception. Gone with the Wind, for whatever reason, I'm still not even sure what exactly about it. Just I don't know. I found it a very like enjoyable, like just epic film. And I guess if you've seen my review for the Snyder Cut, then you know I'm a sucker for just massive epics. That's the only really old movie on this list. We're jumping all the way now to the 90s. And specifically, this is a lot of people's pick, but it's true though. My pick is 1994's The Lion King, because this is just one of my all-time favorite movies. It's one of the movies, only like probably less than 10 movies I would give a perfect 10 out of 10 to, and this is certainly one of them. And yeah, The Lion King, just what can I really say about it? It's just, I mean, the animation itself is stunning, but the story, though simple, is just, it just never gets old. And the opening has like the best opening ever to a movie, possibly, and the music, and it's really like one of the first kind of big movies Hans Zimmer scored, and everything about it is just, it's really, despite being short, it also feels quite epic, especially for an animated film. So my pick for animation is The Lion King. And also from 1994, my pick for drama is The Shawshank Redemption. And this is actually one I managed to rewatch right before doing this video because there was something I wanted to refresh myself on. I wish I could have done the same for Gone with the Wind, but I mean, it's like 4 hours long, so I didn't. But The Shawshank Redemption is just fantastic. Having just seen it again, yeah, I can see why it's rated by people as like best movie of all time on IMDb. I don't know if it would quite be number one for me, but probably top 10, and I have zero problem with it being number one because it really is like a perfect film, and it's just absolutely just so inspirational in all the right ways, and it deals with some really potentially depressing subject matter, but you don't ever, I don't think, feel dragged down by it. And it's just a really satisfying watch every time I've seen it. And yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful movie. It's hard not to get like kind of teary-eyed at the ending. So in terms of just clear-cut dramas, Shawshank Redemption, hands down, is my pick. For action, I mean, in some ways, I think objectively, Die Hard, the original Die Hard, is like truly just the most perfect action film. But my pick, since we're going with favorites here, I'm a huge James Bond fan. As you can see, that's one of my many James Bond Funko Pops. I need to go with a Bond movie because it's pretty much probably my favorite movie franchise, either that or the MCU. But yeah, and I always go back and forth my favorite Bond movie between Casino Royale, Skyfall. But then my other one I go back and forth on, and the one I've decided to pick, is 1995's GoldenEye, Pierce Brosnan's debut. I think it's still one of the best. In some ways, I think Casino Royale and Skyfall are ultimately better films overall, but GoldenEye is just the most fun Bond movie for me. It's the one that sort of balances the dark and the light of the franchise the best, and it's the one I always want to rewatch the most. And I think, yeah, despite it overall not being as dark as the Daniel Craig ones, it does have, like, even though it's overall, it's more over the top than those, but it does have some really, like, it has a really, like, grimy sort of grit to its action. I don't know, actually a lot like Die Hard, because this is one of the first Bond movies to come out post Die Hard, so you could see that they were kind of going for, like, a PG-13 version of that Die Hard action. So, yeah, GoldenEye is just an awesome movie. It has some of the best characters in the Bond franchise, in my opinion, so it is my pick for action. Now, we are moving all the way into the 2000s, so my pick for adventure, I'm just going with Lord of the Rings. I'm not even necessarily picking one of them because I mean, it's kind of cheating. I'm not doing this or any other category, but I think in this case, it's not really cheating for Lord of the Rings because it really is one big epic adventure. It's the ultimate, most epic adventure that there ever has been put to screen, really. And I haven't seen them too recently, but so if I had to pick one, I'd probably off the top of my head go with the third one. But overall, like, it's just one grand adventure, and I mean, if I don't know how I could really pick anything else, because it's just absolutely, like, there's no other movies like them, and they're just probably the most impressive movies ever made, and all three are easily in my top 5 favorite films of all time, and they all three are perfect 10 out of 10s. They're phenomenal. Favorite comic book movie pick, you guessed it, it's The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight's not just my favorite comic book movie, it's my favorite movie of all time. That's like probably the one movie I would personally put above Lord of the Rings. And, I mean, I love the whole trilogy, but just The Dark Knight specifically is the one I would put above Lord of the Rings. Yeah, what can I say about The Dark Knight? It's just, I mean, it's the first movie that I ever saw multiple times in the theaters. I was 12 years old when it came out, and I remember going to see it opening day, and it just blew my mind. And then I saw it 2 more times in theaters. I've never done that before. Never gone to a movie more than once in theaters. And since then, I've always sort of done that since, like, yeah, and that was about, like, really, that was sort of roughly about the halfway point in my life now. So since then, I've always done that, and yeah, just everything about this movie, like the story and everything. I mean, obviously, the thing is, Heath Ledger is, I think many people would agree, many people would disagree, but I'd say it's probably the best performance ever given by an actor, or at least one of the best. And he's just like the best villain of all time. So like, but the thing is, people forget how great, I think sometimes he overshadows the rest of the movie, and people almost can sometimes overlook just how great the overall movie is, because everyone in this movie is so well cast, and the story is just so enthralling and epic and dramatic, and it just really, I think it's the first comic book movie that really transcended being just a comic book movie. For sci-fi, we have another Christopher Nolan movie, the one right after The Dark Knight, that again was another movie that blew my mind, Inception. So Inception just took my favorite actor, favorite director, Leonardo DiCaprio, Christopher Nolan, made a movie together, and yeah, what a ride Inception is. It takes inspiration from a lot of Bond movies too, which is really cool being a Bond fan. But obviously marries it with the whole, like, because I'm having it in the sci-fi category, with the whole kind of sci-fi element that's not obviously a thing in Bond movies. There's just so many, I just remember being in the theater, and just the way they talked about dreams and stuff, I don't know, it actually made more sense to me then, I think, than it does now, oddly enough, when I was like 14 or whatever, seeing it in theaters when it came out. But now I almost get more confused with some of how the logic works, because I think when I was younger, I could just kind of go with it a bit more, but nonetheless, I still love this movie, and it's just an absolute blast. And again, Hans Zimmer delivers another one of his best scores, in my opinion, along with like The Dark Knight for this movie. My favorite Western is Django Unchained, and again, I don't even think I don't dislike Westerns, like I know a lot of people have said. I probably need to see more, but I think I've enjoyed most that I've seen, but so I don't think I'm completely picking this by default, like a lot of people seem to be saying, or that seems to be their take on it, but I'm just picking it because it really is, like, it's just not only my favorite Western, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and just the performances all around, this is the movie that really made me fall in love with Quentin Tarantino. Now, we're getting into, so the way it worked out, actually, funnily enough, since I'm talking about these in order of release, the last 2 genres, just by a happy coincidence that they're the genres that are the last 2 in order of release, my picks. These are the 2 genres that are definitely my least favorite, I guess, of all these 10 genres, and these are just 2 genres that, and don't get me wrong, the picks I have, I love these picks, so there are exceptions, but overall, these were 2 of the tougher ones for me to pick, but once I realized, once I thought of certain ones, and I'm like, okay, that's my pick. So these last 2 genres are comedy and horror. We're going to start with horror first, because order of release, but so I'm a pretty big scaredy cat, and I'm not someone who likes being scared. So you can see why horror is not my thing then. But my pick for one, and this is another one I did just rewatch because I'd only seen it once, and I thought it was pretty solidly going to be my pick, and I rewatched it. I'm like, yep, that's definitely my pick. And again, it's not for horror fans. It's probably not one of their favorites because it's not that scary compared to a lot of horror movies. It's scary in like a different kind of way than a lot of them. But my pick for horror is Get Out. And yeah, I just rewatched this one, and yeah, I don't know, it's just a movie I like really, even though, yeah, it's a horror movie technically, that's why it makes the cut for this category, but yeah, when I'm watching it most of the time, I don't know, it's one that I'm really feeling for the main, like, protagonist and stuff, and he's in just such a strange situation that really quickly becomes terrifying. And yeah, it has like, you know, it has things to say about racism and stuff, but without not in like a generic or not a way we're used to. It's a very new spin on it, but yeah, I don't know. Weirdly enough, I think by like looking at racism from, I don't know, an almost more obscure angle, it makes its point all the more impactful. And my last pick for comedy is, I guess, probably a little intense for a comedy, but it is classified as a comedy still, and it makes me laugh pretty much the whole way through. So my pick for comedy is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, another Tarantino movie, another Leonardo DiCaprio movie. I know some people weren't crazy about this one, but I mean, I had a blast with it every time I watched it, and I wouldn't. It might be like my second hot take. It might be like my second favorite Tarantino movie. I mean, Django Unchained is easily my first, and I go back and forth between a few other ones like this and Inglourious Basterds and stuff. But yeah, I'll admit the plot's like not anything like mind blowing, but it's all about the atmosphere with this movie, and the characters are just like, I think Leonardo DiCaprio once again gives another just phenomenal performance, and he's really funny, and so is Brad Pitt's hilarious, and it's totally a hangout movie, and often I'm not a fan of those, but I mean, I'm a fan of them if I really like the characters enough and want to hang out with them, and that is definitely the case with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So those are my picks for the 10 different genres, and now I'm going to say, I guess, a few channels that I think I would like to see them do a video, and some channels are around my size, and some are way bigger than me, so I'm sure at least some of these people have been tagged, but these are ones that, as far as I know, like, they haven't put up a video and they haven't been tagged as far as I know. So apologies if y'all have been tagged. Just ignore this, I guess, then. But yeah, my picks for people I'd like to see do this are Zack Goller, AMERCTHEGREAT, the Popcorn Podcast, Meters Reviews, and Nick in Movies. So again, don't feel like you have to do this, but if you want to, then I'd love to see your list. So thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye.